A politician is lying. Their mouth is moving. For us to continue to think that our governments are just a bunch of idiots, well, yeah, majority, pack of idiots. But there are a few ones up at the top who just control, and they know exactly what they're doing. The government just clamps and clamps and clamps, but it's like water running through your fingers. The more they lock down, the more it's going to go slip through. And anyone with tech skills is going to just say, hold my beer, I will defeat your system. You're a normal, decent human being and just a normal citizen of a country, but if the law is going to go out of control, well, then it's going to create criminals out of everyone, because everyone's just going to go, well, this is ridiculous, I'm just going to do it this way. Anyone now who owes more than $3 million in their annuation account knows how to move that money out of this country. The really rich people, the super rich people in this country, will move their money overseas, and the government won't be able to touch it at all. They won't be able to tax it, they won't be able to stop them. In fact, they've probably already done it just from hearing that this is coming into place. And the law becomes tyranny, disobedience becomes duty.
Sean McLeod ran the 25 federal election as the Libertarian Party candidate for Warringah in a political landscape dominated by major parties and independents with progressive leadings. McLeod offers a radically different vision: less government, lower taxes, more personal freedom. Now we're talking. The Libertarian Party, previously known as the Liberal Democrats, is gaining traction by targeting disillusioned voters tired of the bullshit, the bureaucracy, censorship, and inflation. In this episode, McLeod critiques government overreach and calls for a political awakening in Warringah and beyond. We're going to dive into some key topics today: the unrealised capital gains tax, superannuation balances over $3 million, free speech, digital IDs, individual rights, free markets, decentralized governments. We might dive into Bitcoin, cannabis, deregulation, and where McLeod stands on today's frontier issues, and how the Libertarians plan to disrupt the status quo and shift Australia's Overton window. Sean, can you tell us your origin story? Who are you, mate? What inspired you to step into the political ring with the Libertarian Party?
Well, it all kind of started. I've always been a little bit of a rebel myself.
Let's go.
So it all kind of started with pretty much just watching what was going on at the end of Albanese's last term, and just seeing the radical bills that he was starting to push. When you look at things from my perspective, I didn't really like where things were going. I mean, I am recently married and we are looking to have kids. And so my thoughts now divert from myself over to where my kids will be when they're my age. So I grew up in the Northern Beaches. I've been along the area, the electorate of Warringah, actually, for most of my life. I have worked in the city, I have worked for the government, and I have worked for private enterprises. And I can tell you that the government is very wasteful. That putting aside, to go back to my original point, this area is ingrained in who I am. So when I started seeing the federal government of last term start to bring in radical bills, one of them being the under 16 social media ban bill, and a few other misinformation, disinformation bill, the MAD bill, as they called it, I began to take more notice. At this point, I decided to join two political parties. One is a paid member, which is the Libertarian Party, and the other one is Gerard Rennick's People's First. I think I only ended up because his website was very new, and I think it wasn't exactly very people friendly at that point. So I ended up just joining the mailing list, and I received a few text messages from him, like every now and again, which is like those, the automated response that one of his personal aides has sort of pushed out. And I get one of them, I read it, and I just go, okay, that's cool. Thanks, Jared. And that's about it. I became more interested at about January 25. We did a party where I got to meet a lot of libertarian sitting members. John Ruddock and I got to meet Ross Cameron, a few other people, and I got into talking with them. They were talking about like next elections, what's happening in the federal election, and I thought everything would be quite fine. I got to go to some of the Northern Beaches branch meetings, which were hosted, and there was a lot of conversations about, someone's running in Warringah, someone's running here, someone's running there. But it wasn't until I heard on the grapevine that someone had dropped out. And I had decided a long time ago that I would eventually put my hand up. And it was going to be one of those long way away, probably 10 years down the track. I will do it. I'll probably be between jobs or something like that. And it just ended up, there was three options in the application process, and that was one of them, that I was building a portfolio for another time. So I thought, okay, it'd be just like, I go to events and speak or something every now and again. I got a phone call after applying for this, about 2-3 days afterwards, and they actually just said to me, "Hey, would you like to be interviewed to run as the Warringah candidate?" And I just went, because I at that point I was pretty much a nobody. I still kind of am. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not that important or anything like that. I can go 2-3 days and my phone doesn't ring at all, and that's just my wife. No, but yeah. So I got through the interview process, and they ummed and ahed for a little bit, but then they said, "Okay, we'll actually give it to you, but here's how you're going to have to run it." And I was free to do a lot of the decision making myself. I was free to do a lot of the strategic decision making as well, but I was also coached into understanding, if you make this decision, this will happen. If you make that decision, this will happen, sort of thing. And this is just the internals of what happens in terms of like preferences, in terms of how we areas that we sort of attack with, we call them core flutes, but they're just the posters that you see everywhere on election day and during pre-poll. And like, how am I going to go about getting donations, and how am I going to go about getting volunteers? That was all kind of left up to me, but I was given a lot of advice and a lot of sort of coaching. This is how we usually do this sort of thing. And I've got two perspectives on that, because a running mate that I had, who I was running against, but he's an old friend of mine, he managed to become the One Nation candidate. So that's Gavin Wright. I worked with him when I worked for the government. So we were good friends back then, and it was a bit of a surprise that we were both sort of running against each other. And he had a very different campaign to mine. One Nation didn't give him as much coaching or support, so he was kind of left to his own devices, and he ran a big sort of media online sort of campaign. And the bum still got more votes than me.
Ouch.
So, yeah, I know. I'm going to
But
talk
you're
him to
still
last name.
friends now?
Oh yeah. We're still good friends. In fact, I'm thinking of bringing him around to our branch at one point, so that we can sit down and just have a conversation. Yeah. So, in terms of why did I do all this in the first place? That was your original question. The reasoning is, so I work professionally in the medical system, and I have quite a lot of knowledge of mental health and how it works and the sciences behind it. Um, I did when I did my degree, I did like an extracurricular sort of thing of mental health. So I spent a lot of time in drug and alcohol rehab. I spent a lot of time in what's known as a MICU, which is a mental health intensive care unit, and in like COB unit, which is like just a single day. People just have a bit of a panic attack and a bit of a freak out. They got to go there for 24 hours, and then we discharge them, and they're fine. And close observation units, and stuff like that. So I've done quite a lot of time spending time with people who mentally aren't cognitively fine, and then they go through this process. They get on a good medication regime. They get on to um, sort of good lifestyle, good sort of clarity and stuff like that, and then they go back out and they're fine. But what I did notice was social media is a weapon. No matter what we think, it is very weaponized to create addiction. You
Yep.
get a dopamine hit when your phone, as my phone, buzzes or makes that little ping sound, it means that someone has addressed, whatever you've said online and all that. You get a comment, you get a like, you get a thumbs up, or whichever platform's sort of acknowledgement scaling is. And this, because kids now have social medias, majority, some don't because their parents forbid it, but they end up growing up with this as a thing. um, I have seen, and it acts kind of like a drug because it is a dopamine hit, and the more you have it, the more it sort of escalates over time. I have seen what happens to drug users through my medical sort of career. I'm not a doctor, but through my sort of working with these people, when you cut them off straight away, there is a
Yeah.
massive detox period, and it really hurts. In fact, a very famous
From
person.
someone, just to jump in, sorry to cut you off, but for someone with lived experience of it, it's fucked. Withdrawal is so painful and so hard, and it is the hardest thing that I've ever been through that moment. Also, the best thing that I've ever done, but that moment, you'd rather die for sure.
Mm, yes, and that's not the first time I've heard that from people. So when you have this in social medias and kids growing up all the way up till 16, and they've had this all the way up till 16, um, they don't fully, like, their brains aren't fully developed at this point. That's usually when they get to about 21, 18, or even 25 with some people. And what happens is you've just taken away a drug. What's going to happen? They no longer get that dopamine
Chaos.
hit because their social medias don't work. And that's not going to work that well. In fact, I touch wood, I don't want this to happen, but I believe that we may see an uptick in teenage suicide rates for the very near distant future. But I hope we don't. I hope I'm wrong. I hope some of your listeners tell me I'm an idiot and it never happens.
And there's no chance of stopping it now,
I,
is there? Like it's one and done.
well, so this is the other thing about it, which is quite contentious. They've already just done that in the UK. So what's happened over there is the Online Safety Act of 2023 has gone through, and they have pretty much very much the same situation as we do here. They have their own e-safety commissioners and their own e-Karens and all these people, and that's going through whilst they censor literally everyone under the guise of, I think they were trying to censor it from just people who were, oh, I can't remember. But what was happening there is it's already being completely exploited by 10-year-olds with an Xbox and AI. So um, what I've been reading is a 10-year-old in the UK could not log into his Xbox account anymore for some reason. So what he did was he took a photo of, he set his birthday to 1977 and then took a photo of one of the video game characters that he was playing. And that seemed to be able to beat the system altogether. And then there's VPNs that may be able to be used, but they want to try to lock those down as well. Well, what I'm saying is it's kind of like one of those systems where the government just clamps and clamps and clamps, but it's like water running through your fingers. The more they lock down, the more it's going to go slip through. And anyone with tech skills is going to just say, "Hold my beer, I will defeat your system." So I believe that that's probably on the cards.
100%. But just a question, Sean, do you think it's even about the under 16-year-olds? Or is it more designed to give everyone a digital ID so they can track the Australian population, and whether it's hate speech or just going against the party narrative or the mainstream media narrative, if they want to do another pandemic, whatever it is it just to be able to identify those people and then shut down dissenting voices in this country? Or do you really believe that they are just trying to protect people under the age of 16 from social media.
No, 100%. It is it the way politicians think, and this is what I've come to the conclusion of. They never do one thing for one thing. They never bring in a hate speech law to stop under 16-year-olds having social media. That's just one aspect. That's like one prong of the trident. They will also require digital ID, and that is going to be a given. And that will probably fall apart quite badly, but they'll be able, because they have surveys and censuses, they'll be able to figure out who hasn't used their ID or who's not using it properly. Whereas the tech industry people, mostly security focused, they're known as ethical hackers. I'm sure if your audience is primarily Bitcoin enthusiasts, I'm sure some of them actually work in this industry and know exactly what I'm talking about, probably to a greater degree than I do. They will be able to exploit it. But there's other things like, yes, it is narrative control. They cannot control the narrative anymore, especially when you have people like yourself, people like other influencer sort of people who command a greater audience and get more views in a quicker amount of time than, say, Channel 9 News or the ABC. And it's mostly because they know that it's all garbage what they put out, and most of it's lies. This is all started from 2016. In fact, in the US, with Donald Trump just continuously telling everyone over there, CNN, you're fake news, MSNBC, you are fake news. And that sort of started a ripple effect, and it went through the internet, and now here we are, sort of thing. So.
I remember, was it Elon Musk saying, like, you guys are the media now? And I can't remember what Australian politician came out and said, no, you are not the media now. And they're getting so angry about it. But the tide is certainly shifting. I think they're getting desperate to be able to do it. Like earlier, you mentioned the misinformation, disinformation bill. That got shut down this country, but now it's coming back again. Like,
Yep.
Fair enough. They tried it for whatever nefarious reasons or good intentions, whatever. Like, put that aside. Australia said no. They said no misinformation, no disinformation bill. They go into the election, they get re-elected. No mention of it coming into the election. After the election, they're trying to jam it down our throats again. What's that about? Are they just do not care about the Australian public anymore, and there's just a set agenda? And if there is a set agenda, where's that coming from? Is that just about holding on control, or are they being dictated from powers that be, like they who control the world, whoever they may be? Or is it just a power grab, or they believe that's the right thing to do? Like, why has this conversation even come back? If you've still got your Bitcoin on an exchange, or you're looking to take your Bitcoin security to the next level, I've partnered with the Bitcoin Way. They offer live help for setting up cold storage, running your own node, keeping your Bitcoin private, planning for the future, using multi-sig, and so much more. They never touch your keys. They will not touch your coins. Instead, they'll show you how to buy and keep them safe. If you want to make your Bitcoin setup safer, you can book a free 30-minute call and have a chat with them. Safetyto Moose, the author of the Bitcoin Standard, Natalie Brunel, Preston Pish, and so many more recommend the professional IT cybersecurity team. Couple of outstanding things here. You can see they've been featured in Forbes, Bitcoin Magazine, Bitcoin Prague, Zero Hedge, Simply Bitcoin, the Bitcoin Safe Team, the Bitcoin Standard podcast with Safetyto Moose, Bitcoin News, obviously G'day Bitcoin for a long time. They're the world experts in helping people become self-sovereign. It's not just about protecting your Bitcoin stash. Yes, they will help you do that in a very easy to understand step-by-step process. But from there, they can help you secure your data. They are your personal cybersecurity IT experts. And then step number 3 is getting a second passport, a Plan B residency. The team, very cheap, very affordable for people that are looking to take their sovereignty to the next level. You can find out more about their services. When you first log in to their website as well, they have got a free 3-minute quiz to allow you to check if you are doing your cybersecurity, your setup correctly. I urge everyone to jump onto the bitcoinway.com. I have put a link into the description for everyone. Could not recommend them enough. I've used them personally before I ever partnered with them for the channel, friends and family. They asked me to help them out. I'm like, go to the world experts. That is the Bitcoin way. So reach out to the Bitcoin way today.
The reasoning is now from me. This is going to be purely speculative because I myself have no actual concrete evidence to support what I say. But from what I've read, what I've seen, and what people tell me, this is very much not for the Australian people, and you have to take it in two different sort of parts. There are the parts like that new Labor senator who's 21, the youngest girl to ever sit parliament. Um, she's just pretty much a useful idiot. She is there because they need a compliant yes man to do whatever the hell they say, and then when things go bad, they can blame her for everything because she's young and she'll probably bounce back somewhere else.
Yeah.
In terms of who they're working for, so I started off with it's of two sort of things. There are the useful idiots like her, and they are pretty much they just think that they're doing a good job. They get down there, they argue their little points, they do all the emails, they do all the things. She talks in Parliament, and for a majority, they think they're doing a good job when really they're not because they have no idea if they're doing a good job or not really. But at the same time, there are the other ones who are the controllers. They're the ones who, at this point in time, we should probably start thinking that they're just dumb and don't know what they're doing because there are certain aspects of these people who don't even know exactly what they're doing. And for us to continue to think that our governments are just a bunch of idiots, well, yeah, majority, pack of idiots.
Yeah.
But there are a few ones up at the top who just control, and they know exactly what they're doing. So for us as the Australian people, we should probably stop thinking that they're just idiots and that their intentions are malicious. Now, whether they know they're malicious or not, that's going to have to be another question, and you might have to ask someone who's probably been in politics a lot longer than I have. In terms of the other half of your question was that there are people above our government, and what one name comes to mind, which is the WEF, the WEF, World
Yeah.
Economic Forum. They are a global think tank who always go to
They're
Davos
evil.
and always thing. Yep, all the climate change stuff. I think things like that kind of inadvertently control some of our politicians, not just like in terms of full control. It's more like soft power. They kind of just push some of these things out there, and they get these politicians on board with it, thinking it's a great cause, and everyone wants to be the protagonist in their own story. They always want to be the hero. So you look at Parliament; they think they're the heroes of their own story on both sides of the bench, and even the crossbench. So it's very it's very hard to convince people that they're actually becoming the villain.
Yeah.
There's a Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan reference there. You're the hero for long enough until you start to realize you are becoming the villain. So, but yeah, I don't think some of these people are there, and they won't be. It's either three things: they don't know, they don't care, or they just want to do it. So it's
All of
purely,
that's
I
all
know
of that's
it's a
scary.
yeah, it is. I didn't want to come here and tell your listeners ghost stories.
I think, like all my listeners or most of my listeners, shout out, and if you haven't already, hit subscribe. But they're Bitcoiners, they're free thinkers, they're critical thinkers. They're asking these questions. Like I said, I was having you on the show. Any questions? And they're like, "Well, what are your thoughts about capital gains tax?" And we'll dive into that. But just before you brought up the World Economic Forum, and I think Klaus Schwab, he's out evil man.
Yeah.
But it's just a bad organization in general. I don't think they have citizens interests at heart. It's just like a one world government. And Klaus Schwab put out a book called The Great Reset. That's a horror book. It's scary. I'd urge everyone to be able to read it straight from Klaus Schwab's mouth. But
Mm.
was it 2 weekends ago? Australia signed over its sovereign rights in a pandemic to the World Health Organization. Would you be able to just sort of explain what happens and what that means for Australia, and if they try, trick the population into social isolation, cutting all businesses down, endless money printing, and whatever? Because we are starting to be pre-programmed with something coming out of China that I've seen over the last couple of days as well, which is pretty odd timing.
Mm-mm. In terms of, so as you said, a couple of weekends ago, the World Health Organization signing happened against much protest from a lot of members in our party, a lot of members in multiple parties, and a lot of people in the general public in many different community groups. What that means now is that nothing would kind of change in terms of how you would see things. So there would still be the health ministers. It would literally just be COVID over again. You would see the health ministers, except all out on the TV airways, like your daily broadcast of this and that. The difference is it is no longer them making that decision. So um, what is her name? I can't remember her name. The one from New South Wales, the
Don't
blonde
ask me,
lady.
man. Don't ask me. I ignore
Anyway,
all of them as much as possible.
all right, just for your listeners, your local health minister of your state government, who is currently in charge, if we break out in a pandemic tomorrow, the decisions that would be made would be very reactive to begin with, and then there would be the WHO would come in, and they would issue a set of rules and guidelines for everyone to adhere to, and it would be pretty much like a COVID-esque sort of thing, depending on the type of virus or the type of disease process which comes out. See, like Ebola is very different from, say, COVID. Um, they would implement already sort of pre-written rules, and they would just implement them. And the thing is, all the heat and flack goes to the health ministers and the state governments of the areas. It would not go to the WHO. They wouldn't even hear a single thing of it. So they would continue to tell them, "You have to do this. You have to do this," even though you could have a whole state in full riot, and they would just go, "No, you have to maintain control." This is just a scenario. Hopefully, never happens. Touch wood, ever again. But when they want to put these things into place, it's because they have a way to use it in the future. And I believe that even if it doesn't, if it's like another 10 years or 20 years or 100 years, having this in place is dangerous because it removes the sovereignty and the ability of the health ministers there and the agency of them to actually make decisions based off of what they're hearing from local health clinics.
Yeah.
So let's just say in future, there is a libertarian health minister. Somehow, my party maintains a majority government. We haven't yet, but you never know, it may. And myself or someone very much like me ends up becoming the health minister, and they now have to answer to the WHO, unless we can remove it. How? I'm not sure. I would have to confer with some of my colleagues on this, but I think in the future we would possibly push to have this thing 100% removed and to remove ourselves from maybe some of these areas. We'd probably stop funding the WEF. We'd probably start funding the WHO. Pretty much doing what Trump is doing right now in America, which is just getting out of all these bad money wasting sort of schemes, which doesn't really help anyone. I mean, more people died during COVID than on record from COVID. So we shouldn't be a part of
Yeah,
it.
That's crazy. And like talking about the current health minister and stuff, I don't know who she is or whatever. I sort of made a sideline joke. A lot of these people working in government, not talking about the people at like the tippity top, the controllers, sort of the evil overlords or whatever. Put those people aside, but just general people working in government are working in there because it's very stable employment. That as like career progression, they feel like that they can really do good. But like to be that person, whether this lady is or not, I don't know who she is. But say she
Mm,
has like the best intentions for everyone, but then Australia does go
mm,
into a pandemic and she can't communicate what she thinks is best. She's just been given a script. That's so sad. And it
mm.
doesn't really make any sense for Australia. Like, we didn't really need to sign that bill, from my understanding. Whereas if we went into a pandemic, the world went into a pandemic, whether planned or not, or real or not, whatever, but say that happened, but we kept on to our sovereignty. Couldn't we just ask them for advice? And then as a country, we could choose whether we annex that or not and what levels we could or not. Like, I don't know why we just had to hand over all our rights in this country in those type of situations. Like, what do we gain out of it?
Um, so you're absolutely right, because that's exactly what we did during COVID. And in the beginning, here in New South Wales, we had Gladys Berejiklian as our premier, and she actually held off with mask mandates, lockdowns longer than, say, Melbourne, Victoria did, or Queensland. And it was usually due to skepticism, a lot of local pushback, and the fact that a little bit of politics, because she was a Liberal premier, and she eventually capitulated, but it was pretty much and I might get a bit of flack for this, but Scott Morrison actually did a good thing by just allowing the states to do whatever they wanted, because every situation was different back then. Scott
Yeah.
Morrison is still a garbage human being, but he also, gave the autonomy back to the state premiers. Um, in terms of what we've done, is it's no longer going to be state premiers um, doing what they think is correct for the state. It's going to be an outside source. So it was already bad enough because the health minister isn't exactly elected at all. They're an unelected official. So you can't really get rid of them unless the premier wants to get rid of them. And usually, in a situation of complete chaos and a virus, which the media is saying hasn't happened in the last 100 years, regardless of its origin and all that, you don't exactly want to appear weak. So if what you're doing seems to be going well, and the larger majority of the population is actually agreeing with you, then you just keep doing it
Yeah.
until everything is safe and fine. That kind of is now like a third step away from everyone, because now you've got WHO just telling you what to do. So even if you fire your health minister because they're not doing a good job, you bring in the next one. Guess what? They're still receiving orders. So
Yeah.
it reduces the health minister's agency down to nothing. Because what's the point? I mean, it's just someone's paycheck now.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It almost makes that job obsolete. Like the WHO may as well just get like an AI avatar to show up on our screens and tell us what to do. Like, that's basically the way things stand now. Sean, I want to flip gears a little bit, because there's just so much
Sure.
happening in Australia where our freedom of choice, freedom of speech, freedom to be able to live a good, healthy, prosperous life's been taken away. We were talking backstage about your local council raising interest rates by 25%, and they wanted to go for 50, and they're only allowed to do 25%. That's a huge blow, especially to pensioners, low income, middle income in Australia at this moment now. But before we sort of get into that side of things, one of the big things at the moment, especially for my community, is this unrealized capital gains tax on superannuation balances over $3 million. It's not in yet, which is good. I'd like to know what you think the likelihood of it coming into place is, and from my understanding, the way that it's written is potentially it could be applied to any asset, whether in super or not. It could trickle down to the family home. They are having talks about removing that capital gains tax discount for the family home. They're talking about getting rid of negative gearing and stuff on more than one property. Is this just a blatant attack on wealth accumulation in this country? Like, we're already taxed so much, and to me, it just looks like there's this huge honeypot, whether it's $3 or $4 trillion of super sitting there that they said they'd never touch. They promised us they wouldn't touch last election, and now it's like we're coming for your money.
I'll open by stating a quote. How do you know a politician is lying? Their mouth is moving. So effectively, this unrealized gains tax. Now, what they say in the popular sort of mainstream narratives is it's going to begin with people who have earned more than $3 million into their superannuation. They're going to tax the top of it, or swipe the cream off the top, and then you should be able to stay. My argument with that is anyone now who owes more than $3 million in their superannuation account knows how to move that money out of this country. And a majority of these people probably won't, and they'll just get taxed a little bit, and that'll be fine. But the really rich people, the super rich people in this country, will move their money overseas. And the government won't be able to touch it at all. They won't be able to tax it. They won't be able to stop them. In fact, they've probably already done it just from hearing that this is coming into place. So it's because most little pet projects that they want to try and do, like all the house building that they want to do out in the West, all the different sort of things that they have in place, all of their renewable energy projects which are falling apart. I think about 7 major companies have defaulted and just packed it in and said, no, we can't do this because there's too much bureaucratic red tape. Pretty much the government's broke. They are 100% broke and they have no money. And it's very hard to negotiate to the Reserve Bank to get more money because that would create more problems. So they're in the middle of a bit of a pickle. If they don't move forward and appear strong, they're going to pretty much default and we're going to turn into Venezuela. When they start coming for your superannuation, they won't stop because they realize after that, because they can't handle money, they can't manage it. That's how they got here. When they come for that, they won't stop. They will come for your house. They will come for this. They will come for that. My parents own a $3 million property. They will probably try to get that. We're in for a massive collapse. Now, will this happen in the next 4 years? I don't know. I actually had it pegged that it would happen about 2 years after COVID, and it hadn't. About 2022 or something. I was wrong about that. So I've got no idea when it's going to come, but it is probably going to come. I can't give out financial advice because I'm not a financial guy. But I mean, your audience is very heavy into Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin.
And self-custody. It has to be in self-custody when we're having these conversations. That's the revolution, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. So, but yeah, in terms of the unrealized gains tax, they will push it through and it will not stop with just $3 million into your super account. It will go down to $2 million, then $1 million, then 500K, then that. And then when they realize they can't get that amount of money, they will go for other assets. Do you own stocks? Do you own Bitcoin? Do you own ETFs? Do you own dividend shares? They will come for everything that you own. Anything that can be created for wealth. Which is, what everyone deserves, in my opinion. If you have the intelligence and you have the capacity and the willpower to create enormous amounts of wealth for yourself, I would say do it. But I don't know what's going to happen for that. It's going to be scary and it's going to be really tragic. But Chalmers is quite tenacious. He's very much on board with what Anthony Albanese wants, which is to create a socialist society. So what happens with socialist societies is they all collapse. like
Oh
horribly.
yeah, I think like a socialist society, you know, the principles and the thought idea around it's good, and there's definitely like parts of socialism that I enjoy and benefit from living in Australia, but over time they move more and more
Mm,
towards communism. I think it's just like certain degrees of separation. One of the things, because I've talked about this unrealized capital gains tax ad nauseum, people are like, oh, it only affects 0.1% or the 88,000 people. But very intentionally, they haven't indexed it to inflation. So within one generation, it's going to apply to the majority of people. Someone starting their career now is going to be hit by this $3 million unrealized capital gains tax. And then you get other people like, I don't have that much money, it doesn't apply to me. Like, so we're just going to tax the rich. That's such a defeatist attitude. Like, not financial advice, but if it doesn't apply to you and you've been saving your super and it's been performing at like shithouse race for the last couple of years, people can put Bitcoin into a self-managed super fund and hold that in self-custody. At least give yourself an opportunity to get towards that 3 million. Like, do or do not.
mm,
But to just be like, it's not going to apply to me, just tax the rich or whatever, but not to be able to think through that maybe it doesn't apply to you in your life, but it's going to apply to your kids or their kids, you know, or your friends'
mm,
kids or their kids or whatever. Like, it's coming. And then people are like, oh, I don't want to buy Bitcoin in my self-managed super fund because then it is going to hit that $3 million. It's still better to have big money problems than no money problems. And that's something that people can address later down the track. But it just, it's like, that's one thing, the government being broke, so they're coming for absolutely everything, or there's social unrest like the machetes in Victoria and stuff, like banning a tool. A machete is an amazing tool. Like, I'll climb up a coconut tree with machete in my mouth and get up there and then smash a big bunch of coconuts down. You're not going to do that with a little pocket knife. Like, it's just not going to happen.
mm.
But to say like we need to remove the weapons or we need to ban this tool, people are going to use hammers, they're going to use spanners or a screwdriver or a pocket knife or a Stanley blade or a baseball bat or whatever. Okay, maybe your intention's good. That's good. So then we're going to put out 40 bins. We're already broke, and those 40 bins are going to cost $13 million. Like, where's that money come
Yes.
from? That comes from the taxpayer. That comes from the hardworking people that are just trying to get by in a cost of living crisis. Like, Australia is going through a massive mental health crisis at the moment, a health, like a homelessness, a health crisis. Like, in every way, we're being suppressed, like from every direction. And it's not necessarily that the people within government are out of control. It's just that the government's gotten so big. It's just out of control. Like, the left doesn't know what the right's doing anymore.
Mm.
Like, how's this change in this country, Sean? Because people are starting to get irate, you know? There's so much we can do. Like, you can hold Bitcoin self-custody, you can put in your super fund if that's your intention. Um, you can get a Plan B passport and stuff. But Australia is the most beautiful country. It's incredible. Like, I'll wake up, look at the Great Barrier Reef, go to the gym, go for a swim and stuff. Like, where else are you going to do that? The coral reef's just out there. Like, freaking
Mm.
amazing. And then we've got the rainforest and the desert, and then we've got the beautiful capital cities and all the food and the great people and everything like that. And it's a beautiful multicultural place. But it's just whatever's going on in politics at the top is just making it nearly impossible to fucking breathe at the moment, mate. Like, how's this change? How do we get a shift?
So the best way to change is to begin voting in the right direction. The one thing that the Australian people have, and it's the most important thing in terms of your political structure, is your vote. But the other thing is people don't understand how preferential voting works, which is far more important. So we have a preferential voting system here in this country. That means that every time you go to the ballot box and you get all those crazy activists all lining up to give you a little tiny pamphlet. I do have a couple of my own ones here. These were my ones during the last election. They open up and they have this. So on your green card, there is the 1 to 8 or the 1 to 10, and then you have your Senate preferences. Preferential voting means that you get to dictate who gets ahead. So they count the vote in about 3 or 4 different sections at 3 or 4 different times. And they go first preference, second preference, third, and then so on and so forth. And it increases a candidate's likeliness to go up. I'm sure there are a few of your listeners who will probably go into a lot more detail because they know a lot more than I do about this. But what I'm saying is we need to educate the people on what they're voting for. When you vote Labor, you're voting for what is happening right now. And he only got in with 34%, so there were a lot of people that didn't really want him in. It's just the preferences put him up and put this big majority government in. We need people to realize that Labor Liberal, they're not going to work. You can have a minority Liberal government might be a bit better, but you need a giant crossbench of people say me, people say independents who are not teals, um, One Nation, other minor parties that are probably really obscure that I haven't even heard of them. But you look at what their policies are, you look at how they're going to implement them, and then take your vote. Everyone has the right to their own vote, and I'm not going to advocate that you all vote for me, even though I should because I'm in the race. But at the same time, it is your own. You make your own decisions, and that's what I liked doing when I was out there during the election, during pre-poll. I always tried to arm people with as much information, give them one of my cards, but also say to them, if you don't prefer us, go along the line, please read everything because information is key. In terms of what's going on, well, I mean, we've got housing crisis, as you know. That's more of a supply and demand issue because of the mass migration that is happening. There is too many people, not enough houses. And I remember seeing Andrew Bragg, one of his tweets where he was in I think it was a statistic meeting with the Labor ministers, and he was asking them questions saying like, how many houses have you built in the last 6 months? You've taken X amount of money and they haven't actually built that many. I think it was 340 when they promised to do about 5,000 a month, which is quite, and this was like over a 6 month period. They'd only built
Yeah.
350 houses. It's like, where's all the money going? We need to cut down all these laws. We have so much bureaucratic red tape, it's not even funny. Cut down some of these taxes. As you said, we are highly taxed. We're taxed about 60%. I mean, I don't have a glass of coffee here or anything, but in a cup of coffee, you've got import export tax, and then you've got milk tax, dairy farmers taxes, all these different things which go into this one cup of coffee. It's like 16 different taxes, and it's ridiculous. So our party is huge on reducing taxes. Um, Excise tax, the cigar, yes,
Yeah.
excise tax is a huge. Um, it is a lot of people, and this is what I sort of got when I was running. A lot of people said, "Well, I don't really see that as a good thing," and I just went, Look, I understand. You might think that getting people to stop drinking and smoking is probably a good thing, but at the same time, it's also fuel." So your fuel is the price it is due to that same tax. So, and we wanted the
Yeah.
Liberals wanted to
Eh,
nuke
eh,
it by about 20%. We wanted to get rid of it entirely. So
which would be the go. And I don't drink, and yes, I smoke cigars. I absolutely love them, but like I'm a grown man and I can make my own choice. Like I go to my mum's house and she's like, "Oh, Sean, like that absolutely stinks." I'm like, "Well, it tasted good." But like who is the government to dictate whether I can and can't consume alcohol or nicotine or caffeine or bloody red food dye if I so intend to drink it. It's just it's just so absurd in every reason. And then you get like those illegal smoke shops and vape shops and whatever popping up
yeah.
everywhere. It's
Oh yeah.
That's
And
nonsense.
and that's the thing. The excise tax has gone to the point. This just that one particular tax has gone to the point where it has become a mockery of itself. And this is literally due to the illegal black market cigarette and tobacco war that has been raging. The criminals are winning by far, and I can tell you that with absolute confidence because every tobacconist that I have gone to has a range of illegals that they have purchased from someone else. You can get anything from them, and it's a quarter of the price of what a government approved, properly labeled product is. So the fact that they will, because this is a compounding tax, so it will go up even more. It it's only a matter of time before we start seeing literally moonshining happening around Australia. And we already see it. I mean, people are allowed to make homemade alcohol anyway, but it's only a matter of time before people start distributing it without licenses because they can sell it for cheaper and still make a profit.
Yeah.
And there is a quote when the law becomes tyranny, disobedience becomes duty. And I
I
think
love it.
that's, yeah, I think that's just, and I don't advocate for these criminals
Takeaway.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just think that is going to happen, and it's going to get to a point where you're a normal, decent human being and just a normal citizen of a country. But if the law is going to go out of control, well, then it's going to create criminals out of everyone because everyone's just going to go, well, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to do it this way.
Yeah.
So,
One of the things you mentioned before is the proper packaging of tobacco products. So, and why they cost so much. Like this is a Romeo and Juliet, Romeo number 2 cigar. And this is how we get in Australia. But to be able to get to this stage, it's behind a locked cabinet in a humidor with a black screen over it. So they have to like open the cabinet up and then they need to lift the flat and then you need to be able to choose. You can't pick them up or look at them or anything. And then you pay, I think this was $64 for that. So I think it's like $2,100 in tax. And then you open it up, and I pulled off the other bullshit vile green label that they had around the packet. But this is already inside a packet, and they just want to warn you one more time that this causes throat cancer. Or like whatever reason, but I've already paid for it and I've already gone through 4 steps to get to the point of pulling it out, and they're just going to try one more time. It's gone nonsensical. And for the audience, if anyone knows illegal smoke shops that sell cigars for 4 times cheaper, let us know, because that's one thing I've noticed that they haven't sold. They'll sell vapes and cigarettes, tobacco. I don't see anyone throwing cigars under the counter, which would be much better in my opinion. I just haven't seen it exist, which is odd.
yeah, it has gotten to the point where they just believe that they can police everything. So it is the police nanny state. I mean, cigars and cigarettes and most tobacco products, and pretty soon probably alcohol will also get the same treatment, where it's just all that uniform sort of disgusting looking green color, and then saying this or that. When the government does these sorts of things, what ends up happening is they've taken away people's ability to think for themselves. So it dumbs down the population in terms of their critical thinking ability. They won't think because the government has already told them, no, this is a bad product. You should not have it. But we'll charge you double for it if you still want it's ridiculous. It's gotten to the point where nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. And this is why the term clown world has sort of come about and been very prominent. And I even hear friends of mine who are more left leaning say it's just turning into a clown world. So
Yeah.
it's going everywhere.
I haven't read it yet, but Knut van Sohm, the author of Infinity Divided by 21 Million, wrote a book called
Mm.
Clown World, I believe. Or is Clown something? I'll need to check and confirm. But it's gotten absolutely ridiculous on every front. I guess it comes back to the question. Apart from like civil disobedience and like voting, we've got a few more years left now before we get another chance. And people could see this in Australia as just getting people like educated on the preferential voting, getting educated on Bitcoin and self custody, and just really taking 100% self responsibility for themselves, their family, and then when they've got that under wraps, starting to look out for friends, their community, and it's more of a grassroots sovereignty minded way to be able to stay free in this country, because if we do nothing, we're going to keep getting more of the same, which is not good.
Yeah. What was your question? What should people do in the meantime? Sorry,
Yeah,
you did blank, just internet interruptions. Just
yeah,
what should people do?
yeah, correct.
So
What should people do?
okay, so join a political party of your choice, no matter which party that is. That is up to the individual to do that. If you have the capacity to become a financial member, that would also be quite beneficial. And get in there, make sure that this party also has what we like to call plebiscites. They make votes on things, and the party members get to decide the direction of the party, which is very good. That's why the Libertarian Party shone to me quite a lot. We are able to make party votes, and this is in terms of leadership, candidacies. If there's any disputes between two big party members, we put up to votes, and that's just a small plug for the Libertarian Party. Join it if you would like to. We're active in every state. So, in terms of what else you can do, is if you live close to where your council is and you are unhappy with what they're doing, go to your council meetings. Go to your council meetings, and you might be able to get up there and speak for at least 3 minutes, tell them how unhappy you are. I would also further call your state and local federal members. If you are unhappy with something going on, talk to them, tell them. Because their aides in their office, they will make notes of this stuff, especially if there are repeat callers, especially after there are a lot of callers. Now, I'm not saying to people to get out onto the street and start waving flags around and doing all that. That just creates a lot of media attention. I would attend events that you believe are within the alignment of what you want. I won't say, if there are people who are left leaning, go and attend left leaning events. If there are people right leaning, go and attend the right leaning events. I believe that there is a countrywide August 31st movement happening. I've already said publicly on my socials that I might be attending, and that was earlier, but looks like I've been able to move some work aside. So, yeah, I probably will be there, at least in Sydney.
Can you just, while you're on that topic, I haven't heard about that. I may have missed it. What's happening August
It's
31st?
Yeah, I'll just grab my phone because I kind of read about it. So it is a event happening. It just says Australia's time to rise, 31st of August, 2025, 12 p.m. Locations to be announced soon. It's in multiple cities, so it's in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide, mostly just the capital cities. It is to do with the mass migration that is happening. I think people are just getting very over it. I too am quite over it. But in terms of my original point, what I was saying just before then, you need to get up and do things. You need to go to your council meetings. You need to call your state MPs. You need to call your federal MPs, attend events, join a political party, become active in the community. Joining a political party will actually take a lot of the stress and pressure off you, because if it's a party that is aligned with your values and what you're doing and what you want to see happen, they will do a lot of the groundwork to get a few things done. So if they want a letterbox drop for about 1,000 people, the party will print up the letterbox drops, and you just go out and distribute them. So and it is making sure that everyone that you are very unhappy, and that creates uh, a sort of like an awareness around the community. So your local government realizes that you're coming back for the next meeting, that you're always there, that you're very unhappy. And eventually they do take notice, at least the ones that actually care take notice.
Yeah.
And then eventually it is a matter of making sure to have your political party that you're part of run candidates in your area. So then you become an advocate for them. So I would say that that is probably the best legal method for anyone to actually go down. You just be you create a bit of chaos for your local government, your state and federal MPs, because you're constantly calling them, telling them what is going on in the local area, and you're very unhappy and nothing's being done about it. And you're never going to vote for them again. And not only that, you're going to tell everyone, and you're part of this large community and group, and they're not going to vote for you. So yeah, they always when
Absolutely.
there is fear that they will lose their seat, they will do things.
I like that. I
Very
guess
well.
how to like I want to dive into Bitcoin quickly. We're a little bit over time, but I for this live stream or for this recording, you're like, I'll just turn off my Bitcoin miner for a moment because it's probably using a bit too much of the internet. So you're definitely a Bitcoiner, which is amazing. I want to just dive into what Bitcoin is to you to wrap this up. But before that, how can people like join the Libertarian Party movement? How can they get involved? Where can they go? Everything you say, I'll get you to send to me as well, and I'll put in the description below
Yeah.
for everyone. But over to you.
Depending on which state that you live in, the Libertarian Party website may look a little bit different. In New South Wales, we have different colours for our party and different symbolism. There is a bit of a history to that. I never bothered to find out because I just thought it doesn't really matter, and I prefer the New South Wales colours anyway. So our ones are this here in New South Wales. The others may have more of a purple-ish sort of dark maroony color, but we're all the same party. We all were called the Liberal Democrats, and we are now called the Libertarian Party, and that was a party decision. You can find us if you just go to your Google and just write Libertarian Party Australia. You'll be able to find us and go to your respective state. And it's pretty self-explanatory once you get to the website. After that, I would be looking for branches. Where you're living is probably where there might be a branch. If you're very lucky, you live very close by to a branch, and they meet. We meet here on the Northern Beaches every second Tuesday of the month, and then every third Tuesday we go and we fight our council. So we find out what the council's agenda is, and we as a whole branch make our way over to the council and we consume them with an ocean of yellow, and our speakers stand up and absolutely blast them for what they're doing. So that's how we are attacking the council. Or not only that, we're very tenacious and we have a few things in the works which, if done correctly and if we are able to manage to get these things completed, we may actually um, get rid of our council altogether, or at least have half of them fired. Who knows? We'll see.
Well, let's see
I don't
what's
want to give away
possible.
too
That's
much.
no. I look forward
Yeah,
to
don't mess
hearing
with us.
more. We'll get you back, and I wanted to dive into Karen and stuff. Like we could just talk for hours, Sean, but this is a Bitcoin
Yeah,
show. Everyone watching this far in is probably pretty, I think, pretty sovereign already. Like hopefully they got Bitcoin in self custody. They run their own node. You said earlier you're like turning off your Bitcoin miner just because of the internet lag. But what is Bitcoin to you? Like how do you find it? What's been your journey? I guess becoming orange pilled.
okay, so how did I find Bitcoin and how did I get
Like,
into it?
yeah, how'd you find it? And then get orange pilled, I guess, because running a miner, you're obviously a little bit down the rabbit hole
Yeah.
already.
Okay. So I have been into Bitcoin for quite a while, but the way I viewed it was in the beginning it was going to be not exactly something that would get me rich, but just another asset to invest in, sort of thing. So I hold a number of coins. I won't disclose which ones because some of them aren't doing too well. But I primarily have
Everything goes to
majority
Gero.
Bitcoin. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, no, I don't
Gets
touch that.
Bitcoin.
That's junk. It's like I invested in Solana for like 5 seconds and then went, no, no. So I saw it as I saw it as like mostly because it's finite, and I understand that printing money infinitely will just devalue it to the point of where we are today. And I've sort of always known that throughout my 20s and all that kind of stuff. And um, I now sort of looked at Bitcoin very recently, not just as, say, a finite asset that I can hold and it will maintain its value and, in fact, probably grow in wealth. I sort of looked at it in the perspective of uh, it's sort of spending ability, and not only that, it's sort of replacement value for the dollar. Like, and I recently at one of the Northern Beaches Bitcoin events saw a person that I worked with on the election. He worked against me. He worked for the Liberal candidate, but he got his wallet out and made a purchase with it, and they explained it. I already knew what he was explaining. Like, it's peer to peer, which is from one person to another, disregarding the banks, and that's where the full sum of the money goes. And all he bought was like a beer, and I was just like, that was so simple how that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it acts exactly like our bank cards do. And in future, I think because it is a growing industry, it's going to just continue to grow. And as I said, it is a massive store of wealth due to its finite sort of capacity. Like there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in the world. And also, there's great mystery behind it as well. Who the hell was Satoshi Nakamoto? So I just find the party really likes Bitcoin, and that was also one of the things that moves me towards it. And as you said, I bought a Bitcoin miner mostly out of curiosity. If I continue down this political route, I will be having more of these conversations. And I thought, I met, do you know Barani? He's a nice guy.
Yes. Very well.
Yeah,
He's an amazing
yeah.
human.
Oh, yeah, he's great. He said to me, "You may want to buy yourself a miner in the future." And I went, "Oh, how much are they?" And he went, "Oh, we'll give you a good deal."
Yeah.
so he got me one. I bought one off him, and he said, "You don't need to know anything. You just set it up. Watch this video. Set it up, and as it goes away, you just go about your day, and this little thing just churns away, hashing." Hashing all those sats, and he gave me some literature and said you should read this, brush up on it. So it was really him that's been like fully orange pilling me. But I kind of always thought of it as like a great asset to have. So yeah, I think the internet's grabbing out. Oh no, here we go. You're back. Yeah, so it's just always
We're back here.
been that sort of thing. Just
Nice. I love it. It looks like we're having a little
pretty
bit of
much.
internet connections, but stay on the line. For everyone watching, I'll put all Sean's links below. You'll be able to connect with him on X as well as the links that he brought. I'll put them in the description. The idea of this video was just to keep the conversation going in Australia. Like, be aware that these things are coming. They're not in your best interests. And just talk to people because it's conversation knowledge that drives positive change. And we have an amazing country. It is fucking truly incredible. And, we have a mindset of having a fair go. So, like, let's bring that attitude back to Australia. And if you haven't already and we vibe, hit subscribe. But please do something nice for yourself today, for somebody else out there. Be blessed. Peace. Thank you.